Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for having me. Mary, thanks for inviting me. And of course, great to see so many friends here, old and new. As you probably have noticed, I'm old school and low tech. So there's no presentation up on the screen. I honestly had a lot of things I had to do. But I did bring pictures, beautiful pictures, courtesy of a guy named Don Rockland, who's one of our members. So hopefully you get a chance to look at them now, because unfortunately I have to go off to our Earth Day celebration at our high school. So when Mary rescheduled because of the snow, unfortunately I gotta do double duty, do that after I do this, so I have to go. But before I do, I want to talk to you a little bit about what we do in North Haven. First off, before I forget, we do have a website, northaventrails.org, northaventrails.org. We're also on Facebook, North Haven Trail Association. Long story, but we go back and forth between trail or trails. But anyway, on Facebook, so we'd love to have you friend us, Facebook us, or follow us on the web. And Emma, we've got a couple of events coming up, so I'd love to have you come if you'd like with your GoPro, because we'd love to have you do videos for us and put them on YouTube. Bottom line is we formed about 10, 15 years ago with the goal of promoting access, education, and recreation along the Quinnipiac River in North Haven. Mary obviously has been a leader and our model and our idol when it comes to Wallingford, so we wanted to sort of do what we could to play off of her successes and do something similar in North Haven. So over the last 10, 15 years, what we've done is we've tried to focus on those kind of efforts. Obviously, we've been a great beneficiary of the Quinnipiac River Fund through the Community Foundation, so thank you, Lee, and your colleagues for those grants. We focus on a couple of different areas. First, we have what we call the Tidal Marsh Trail. I can describe to you how to find it as well as how to get to it, but it's essentially behind Target off of Universal Drive behind exit 9 of 91 in North Haven. So thanks to our work with the Quinnipiac River Fund and the town of North Haven, if you get off exit 9 of 91, you should see those brown and white signs directing you to the Tidal Marsh Trail. So if you follow the signs, basically there's a road called Eagle Crossing between, there's the Best Buy and Big Lots and whatever. Basically you head down that way, just keep going. You look for the signs, look for the parking lot behind Target, and what you'll find is the Tidal Marsh Trail. It's about a half, 3/4 of a mile, and there is some signage. You'll see on the board I put up, I think it's the middle top picture, us posing by some of the signs we've done with the town of North Haven. It's a combination of town land, state land, and privately owned land. But the nice part is you have a tremendous vista of the Quinnipiac River. You can see directly across the marshes to the Hamden side. You can see Sleeping Giant. And what we do is we maintain that trail and do programming along it. Usually once or maybe twice a year. In fact, we average roughly between 2 to 3 events a year along the trails in North Haven. But this is one of the main trails that we operate. And so, giving an example, on National Trails Day, Saturday, June 1st, from 11 to 1, what we're going to be doing is what we're going to be calling a hike and. So obviously the weather is usually quite nice. We encourage people to go out and take a walk either before or after our event along the trail. But in the middle of it, what we're going to do is we've hired a reenactment actor to come and do about an hour-long program where he's going to tell stories of people who actually worked on or rode the rails 100 years ago. Behind the Tidal Marsh Trail, actually, it was called the Cedar Hill Rail Yards. It was built up over time on marshland and wetlands, and it was actually a major source of economic activity in the New Haven area 100 years ago. Now you go to it, you see all the old rails, you see old fire hydrants, towers, whatever, and trees, and everything grown up. It's amazing how nature reclaims things that were being used actively just 50 or 100 years later. So the idea was to make it interesting. We actually did something similar a couple of years back, and we had the largest number of people come out, so we decided to do it again this year. So he's going to tell stories of the time from people who worked in the rail yards or rode them, as well as sing some songs that the riders would have been singing or the workers would have been singing while they did their work. So that's 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., Saturday, June 1st at the Tidal Marsh Trail. So again, you can always put Eagle Crossing into your GPS. That probably gets you there. But if not, again, just try to follow the directions as best you can. Look for the brown and white signs. And so just to give you an idea of some of the views you can see, I think the pictures here along the left-hand side of the board show you some of the photography of some of the views. In the past, what we've done on Tidal Marsh Trail is what we call bird walks, where we work with people from the New Haven Bird Club, the Audubon Society, thank you, because there's just so many beautiful birds to see and hear along the Tidal Marsh Trail. So whether they're the birds of prey, the eagles, the herons, the ospreys, the hawks, the falcons, especially some of them that do their stands and nests in the river. They're often quite busy building their nests, raising their young. You've also got songbirds in the trees themselves, the orioles, the blue jays, the cardinals, and so forth. And then of course you have what we call the waterfowl, both the ducks, buffleheads, geese, that are in the water, as well as the fowl that run along the shore. I don't know the names, but they have tall, thin legs, and they kind of go down and get the bugs. Anyway, so at the right time of year, sorry, I know, I missed. So we often do bird walk and talks, usually once every 18 months to 2 years. So it gives you sort of an idea of what we do at Tidal Marsh Trail. We've got some projects upcoming. We actually have taken another grant to create some informational, educational signage that we're going to put at the trailhead on town land, similar to what they have in New Haven along the Quinnipiac Trail down here. So we're going to be putting those kinds of things up. So that's one of the things that we're very involved in. The other area we're involved in is up in the Quinnipiac River State Park, which is off of Banton Street. It's behind the rest stop on the Wilbur Cross or Merritt Parkway, however you want to describe it. We've worked with the DEP over the course of many years, sometimes over their obstruction and resistance, to gain control of a certain amount of the trail system in the Quinnipiac River State Park. It's about 4 miles north to south, and formerly the Connecticut Forest and Park Association used to maintain the Blue Trail in there. They no longer do that. We worked with them to identify about the first 1.5 miles north of the trailhead behind the gas station, if you will, to maintain. So what we do is we've rechristened that the Banton Quinnipiac Trail. So again, just if you use GPS, put in Banton Street in North Haven, that will help you find it. It's more easily described as roughly off of the exit on the Wilbur Cross, exit 63, I think it is. We've got some brown and white signs up to try to direct you to the entrance to the park. It's not fully signaged yet, but we're working on that. But the bottom line is we do a couple of things in there. We maintain, again, the first 1.5 miles or so. We also do events. So for instance, 3 weeks from today at 10 a.m., the 27th, we're doing a walk and talk where the goal is to curate a short hike through the park. We've often worked with Mary Mashinsky in the past on what we call the Marsh Marigolds Tour, because there are these beautiful little yellow flowers that come out in late April. They're not actually marigolds, but we call them that and get people to come out for it. But this year what we're doing is, many people may not know, but the reason we call it the Banton Quinnipiac Trail is because years ago there was actually a small community that lived in there, initially year-round, then subsequently just in the warm months, and then not at all. It's state land, obviously now, but for a period of time there were a bunch of cottages that people lived in down there. And so you can still see the remnants of human activity. And again, they haven't been there for 50 years, so nature is doing its job to reclaim it. But you can sort of see along the right-hand side of the board 3 pictures that have been taken from the Banton Quinnipiac Trail. So you can see quite obviously that just a few miles north of the Tidal Marsh Trail, the river is much narrower. There's a lot more growth close to the river. Not as many birds, a lot more insects, but obviously beautiful foliage, beautiful flowers. and history. So what's neat about North Haven is that we get to do two little different areas that have vastly sort of different appeals to them. You know, Tidal Marsh Trail, a lot about the birds, a lot about the view and the vistas of Hamden and Sleeping Giant. Bantam Quinnipiac Trail, foliage, insects, history. So the goal of the walk on the 27th actually is to have people join us who either have done historical research on the community that live there or were actually residents. Because we're not so far removed. We've got people in our 60s, their 60s, 70s, and 80s who we think may be inclined to come and either give a talk initially about what it was like to live in the area or accompany people on the hike. So these are the kinds of things that we do. Again, we're always trying to be creative. We do try to apply for grants periodically when we have neat projects to put on. Third thing and final thing I just mentioned before I'd be happy to take some questions is we're in the process right now of trying to reclaim easements over the wetlands behind the Cinemark Theater. If you think about it, just north on Exit 9 Universal Drive, we've had to work with the Cinemark Corporation. There's a triangular piece of land back there behind the parking lot through which one can gain access through the fence that they've put up. And we've negotiated with them an ability for us to get in there and create a very small trail. Obviously, some of the issues that JR was talking about in New Haven apply in North Haven as well. Best Buy built right up to the edge of the water. They were going to create a boat launch. They now prohibit people from doing a boat or canoe or kayak launch behind their property. The trail would actually have to be in their parking lot if we did it. So connecting things is often very challenging along the waterway. But the neat thing is we may be able to make that sort of small destination, if you will. And so our efforts now, we sort of right-size our efforts to the number of volunteers that we have and the resources we have. So we're excited by the projects that we do. We're obviously interested in new ideas, different ideas. So one of the things that we're thinking about is, can we do a scavenger hunt? Can we do a photo contest? So one of the things you may see on our website shortly is some ideas we have along those lines. Always just trying to find ways to bring people to the river, because when they do, and I'm sure Mary and all of you have heard the same thing, they say, I had no idea this was here. This is such a treasure. This is such a resource. And so with that, the final thing, we do meet monthly, the third Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. at the North Haven Recreation Center, which is on Lindsley Avenue, I think it's called, in the center of North Haven. You're always welcome to come. You don't have to join. We get together for about an hour. I try to keep it very strict. I'm the president, and I don't like long meetings. So I say, guys, we're in and we're out in an hour. And so people really seem to appreciate that. So we sort of right-size what we have to do to the hour-long time. So again, we're always interested with people with new ideas, new partnerships, new collaborative opportunities, new sources of revenue. So again, I apologize for having to leave, but I wanted to thank you all for inviting me and happy to answer any questions before I have to go.
Steve, you want to hear the story of how it came to be Eagle Crossing Drive?
Well, I'm assuming it has something to do with the bald eagles that nest in the stands in the river, but...
The bald eagles used to nest there. The project came in and displaced the eagles, and I went and complained to them. They were displacing an endangered species, and they said, okay, we'll make up to you, we will plant some plantings. So we went back, like you tried to do, we went back to try to put plantings in. There's no room. They built right up to the edge of the river. There's no room there to put any trees. So the eagles left and they didn't come back. And then the gall of these people, they named the street Eagle Crossing Drive after they chased away the eagles on the street.
But Mary, the good news is eagles are making a comeback.
They are, and we have a speaker on that.
Like I said, I mean, I've seen them myself. Like I said, I believe one of the stands they typically nest in, and I know over on the Hampton side on State Street near the DMV and WB Mason and No Worries Brewing, just a simple plug, but they have a nest there and they have a whole family.
Mike is going to talk about that.
Well, I'm sorry, Mike, I apologize. I'm not trying to steal your thunder, but I'm just saying, the good news is they're coming. Right, I came. You had the binoculars and the telescopes, right, Mike? Just hadn't seen you in a few years. Sorry. So anyway,
Nice introduction.
well, good. I gave you a little taster. Yes.
So I just have a suggestion, when you mentioned the scavenger hunt, it would be shame if you did not call it Quinquest.
All right. That's good to know. I will pass that along to our team. Quest. So again, finally, just to thank you very much. Again, we're always looking for other groups to partner with. Like I said, we've been partnering with the North Haven Historical Society. I talked to Justin Ellicker at one point about partnering with the Land Trust in New Haven. So we're always looking to try to find new ways to wrap history. What we find is people really get excited when they talk about the history. So just to give you they're in my car, they're like 35 pounds each, that's why I didn't bring them in. But one of the signs we're putting up is the history, a brief history of the Quinnipiac River. And the other one is a big board on all the kinds of birds that you can see in the river. So the idea is to engage kids in particular, to say, oh, look, can you find the eagle? Can you find the oriole? Can you find the duck? And so we're just always trying to find new groups, new people, new ideas, things to try to make it exciting to come back to the river. So,
Excellent.
Dan?
What's the date again of the train yard history?
Right. I forget what we've called it, but it's National Trails Day, Saturday, June 1st, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Tidal Marsh Trail. So that's the date.
How'd you get the signs up? Is it DOT do those for you?
Actually, interesting little quick story. No, DOT actually has changed its policy, and now not only will not put the signs up, will not allow them in state right of way.
Yeah, they told me no. That's why I wondered, why did they say yes to you and no to me?
Well, they said yes to the Tidal Marsh Trail Exit 9 signs under the previous regime. So they don't take down signs they previously authorized, but they don't allow new signs up. So when we did the Quinnipiac Trail, which again is exit 63 off of Wilbur Cross or exit 11 off of 91, we had to be very creative because they would not allow us to put signs at the exit of exit 11. So we had to say, okay, well, who can we work with? And so we said, all right, well, we work with the town of North Haven to put it up on town lane. So we said, well, if we can get them to exit 11 and get them to take a left, we can get them from there because we can figure out all the locations that are town roads.
Okay.
And so basically we paid for the signs and the town put them up.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Who took those gorgeous photographs?
We have two awesome photographers in our group, so I should shout them out again. One is a friend of Mary's named Richie Ratzak. I think he's a photographer for the Meriden Record Journal, but I'm not sure. Middletown Press. Okay. And Don Rockland is the guy who took these pictures, and you'll see a lot of them on our website as well. So he has a nice scrolling, whatever you want to call it, on the website page. But he's constantly taking new pictures. So between Richie focuses more on the flora and fauna. So like the birds and the animals, Richie really does a great job on. And Don does a lot more of these landscapes and vistas. So that's sort of a rough rule of thumb of who did what. But yeah, they do an awesome job. So, thank you all very much.
Steve.